Hello, it's Reija and welcome to another video. Today I am here to share with you my August reading wrap-up. And I normally don't talk a lot about the books I DNF, but this month there were a few that I have been talking about previously on the channel, so I thought that I'd share with you what the status on those is. So I'm gonna be talking about my DNFs / books that I've parked, then I'm going to talk about the comics and manga that I've read, and then I'm going to talk about all of the rest of the books, and I will of course leave timestamps down in the description. So without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, I have decided to finally DNF Palestine. Now, hear me out. I actually recommend Palestine by Joe Sacco for people who want to know more about the situation between Israel and Palestine and the historical aspects behind it, and how Israel deals with Palestinians and how the Palestinian resistance works, etc. This is a very good look at that situation, and it is very thoroughly researched journalism, and I will commend Joe Sacco for his writing. So why did I decide to DNF this? Mind you, I got to around 50 or 60% of this book, so I made quite a bit of headway. It's the art. I'm sorry, I'm personally just... This sort of art style is not my jam. I will have you know that I know the level of skill that it takes to do this kind of art with like ink and like a lot of texture. It is very skillfully done, but it's just not pleasing to me, so that made it a bit of a chore. Whenever I was trying to pick this book up, I was like, oh, I have to look at Joe Sacco's art, which I don't like. So in the end, that's why I ended up DNFing this. The writing is great, but the art just irks me so much. So I am looking into reading other books, like some other non-fiction about Palestine in the future. Another book that you may have heard me talk about in the recent Stitch and Bitch that we did is Beowulf, a Modern Translation. I have parked this book. I made it to around, I want to say the 50% mark again. I'm about halfway through. Then I had to return the book to the library, and now I have an e-copy from the Hugo Voter packet that I can finish the book from. However, this month there's the Magical Readathon and Space Opera September, and I have work, so there's a lot going on. So I am pausing this book, but note that I am still going to be finishing it before the Hugo voting closes, so just a heads up on that. And finally, another book that I DNF'd is Unraveling by Karen Lord, and this is more of not for now sort of book, because it's basically this idea of an urban fantasy inside sort of like a corporate judicial system kind of thing, with lots of fantastical elements. And I just am a sucker for that kind of thing, where there's a lot of like bureaucracy and office shenanigans, but there's fantastical elements. So I want to read it, but I just wasn't in the right headspace for it in August, so I returned it to the library. And maybe I will read some other book by Karen Lord first and see if I like her writing in another setting, and then go back to Unraveling. But yeah, those are all the books that I DNF'd. Next up, I read volumes 14, 15 and 16 of Berserk by Kentaro Miura. Basically, Eclipse is now over. We have now gotten past the extended flashback sequence that was the whole of Guts' past, and are back to the present timeline where the series started from, and Guts is back on the road killing demonic apostles. And I really liked these volumes. I gave them I gave volume 14 4 stars, volume 15 5 stars, and volume 16 4 stars. So I really liked this arc. This is the Lost Children arc of the story, where basically Guts investigates this village where children have gone missing, and it has something to do with fairies or elves, and he's going to investigate, and once again brutality ensues. This commentates, like, this part of the series does a lot of commentary about how children react to war and how children react to atrocities around them, and also how everyone has their own sort of battle that they need to pursue in their life, and other people can't really shoulder the burdens for them. You have to do it yourself. So it's like, it has a lot of commentary on that, and this is one of the better arcs in the series. I really liked it. And then I started another manga series, which is Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. I heard about this first from Maya Reads and then from Rachel from Kalanadi, and I was like, hey, I am the person who reads manga here. So I decided that I will pick it up, and I got it from the library, and oh my god, it is so good. I really enjoyed it. Like, the art style is phenomenal. Kamome Shirahama has this very rich and thick inking style, and the way she draws the characters, it's like she is mimicking this lithography type of art style, which like basically looks like ink printouts that you'd see in like medieval times, just when the printing press was invented. And the magic system in this is all about art and drawing, and basically all about creating like through interpreting magical symbols and drawing the spells in your own way. So the wands are actually like ink fountain pens, and it's like, it's great. And the witch fashions in this series are absolutely amazing. I just, aesthetically, plot-wise, world-building-wise, I love everything about this series. So I read the first 3 volumes, and I gave volume 1 3.5 stars. It was basically all about setup. We find out about this conflict between the witches that have brimmed hats and the witch that have like pointy caps, and like this idea of forbidden magic that works magic on human body and on living things, whereas the witches that have like pointy cone hats, they are more about helping people and using magic on inanimate objects and enchanting contraptions that can help people, and basically doing magic on a living body is forbidden. And the main character, Coco, ends up accidentally using forbidden magic, and she is brought into the witch world, and she is an outsider trying to learn all about witchery. And this series is just great. I love it so much. I'm hooked. I have already in September read the next 2 volumes, and I can't wait to read more of it. It's so good. I highly recommend it. It is great. In volume 3 there was also very good like colorblind representation, which I really enjoyed, so top notch, highly recommend. And then I read volumes 3 and 4 of the manga Jujutsu Kaisen, and I gave volume 3 3.5 stars and volume 4 4 stars. The series is definitely getting better. It's still a little bit on shaky ground because the pacing is very abrupt and fast, but it also tackles some interesting topics, and is a bit horrific at times, which is very apt considering it is more like a horror action type of manga. And it's interesting also for me to read it after I have watched the animated series, because I keep comparing it to the animated series, and it's interesting to see how the anime has actually improved upon the source material. I'm continually impressed, but yeah, Volume 4 has definitely been my favorite. So far we get to see my favorite grumpy old salaryman, Nanamin, who is one of my favorite characters. So yeah, I'm eagerly continuing on this series, but it's one of those weird things where I actually think the animated series is better. And then finally, the last manga that I read was volume 19 of The Promised Neverland by Kaiju Shirai and Posuka Demisu, and I gave this volume 3 stars. It was okay, but it's too convenient. There are plot things that are way too convenient and happen too fast to really let me enjoy the impact and the surprise. And I just wish the author could have let this series just breathe. Like, just let it breathe, have some more volumes in between, like, slow it down. There's one more volume to go and then the series is finished and I am going to do a full series review. But yeah, this has just been overall a series that had such a fantastic start, started out great and has just been continually plummeting down into mediocrity as it has gone on. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but then again, this is also one of the better later volumes in the series. And now on to the novels. First up, I finally finished How to Lose a Country, The 7 Steps from Democracy to Dictatorship by Ece Temelkuran. She is a Turkish journalist, however this book was written in English. And it's basically all about what steps have to happen in order for like a populist authoritative ideology to take root in a country. And it was very interesting, and it talks about the rise of Nazi Germany, it talks about the polarization in the United States, it talks about Erdogan's rise in Turkey, and also like these populist right-wing leaders in Hungary and France, for example. And it was really interesting in terms of the topic, and I think it has a lot of important things to say. However, I do feel like sometimes the author writes in a very sort of self-important way, and also this book sometimes reeks of certain class elitism because the author has the resources to remove herself from the situation by way of traveling to another country, etc. And she doesn't really go over what it's like for more marginalized people in her country, how they are dealing with the suddenly oppressive regime of Erdogan, etc. So I think in that way the book kind of lost me. However, I do think it was an interesting read and explores a very current topic, so I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I read The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. This is a literary fiction novel about two sisters who are living in a town that is all black citizens, but they have always prioritized lightness and have always strived towards basically having the lightest possible skin. And these twins are born in this town and they are both very light, and it tells the story of how they run away from this town to live in another city, and then the other sister runs away from her twin and decides to pass as white while the other sister marries a black man. And it's all about this familial dynamic. It is about what's the cost mentally for this other sister to pass as white, as well as what's the social cost of the other sister when she comes back home with a very dark daughter, and how her daughter deals with living in a town where everyone looks down on her because of her skin color. So it's very much about colorism and the sort of social hierarchy that results from people putting a lot of stock into skin color. It was very interesting, like not perfect. I think there was plenty of instances where the author chose convenience over like logic to advance the plot, but I really enjoyed it. It has major trans side character and other kinds of, like it also has, because this book takes place from the 1950s up to like the 1990s, so it very much tackles like the Jim Crow segregation as well as the AIDS crisis in the 80s. So I thought that it was an immensely interesting and thought-provoking read, as well as very engaging and readable. Like I read it in like a couple of days. It is very fast to read, so I would recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. And finally, I read some nonfiction, and I listened to this one on audio. I read Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings. This basically is all about the historical origins of how we look at people's bodies today, and how the sort of language surrounding how we talk about people's weight and appearance has born out of basically race theory and religion before it got brought up into the medical field. This book was really interesting, and I learned a lot. Like I for example, I learned that Italy and Spain and also Netherlands were like the major 3 hubs that imported enslaved people into Europe already in the like 15th and 16th centuries. So that gave me like an update on my time frame on the whole transatlantic slave trade. And I would highly recommend this. This was really interesting. It talks about like beauty standards and how this sort of supremacist thinking has also caused beauty standards to shift and change in various times, and especially during the time of Enlightenment and such. So yeah, I would highly recommend this. I gave this 4 stars. And there you have it. Those were all of the books that I read in some capacity in August. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a cactus emoji in the comments, because I feel a bit prickly today. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye bye!